in Shmuel Aleph, chapter 7, verse 9. If you remember, what happened was Shmuel assembled all the people together, he was giving them the information and Musar about what's happening, what will happen with the king. They all accepted everything fine. The Philistine heard that all the Jews had assembled to Mitzpah. They assumed that they were getting ready for war, and so they came out going for it. That's what Hashem wanted, and so they fell into the trap. So now what happens is Vayikach Shmuel Talei Chalav Echad. Shmuel took one nursing lamb, V'yalehu Ola Kalil Hashem, and he brought it up as an Ola, a complete Ola offering for Hashem. Vayizak Shmuel El Hashem, and Shmuel cried out to Hashem, Ba'ad Yisrael, on behalf of Israel, V'yanehu Hashem, and Hashem answered him. So what is going on there? Simply, the Malbim says on this that, where is it? Oh yeah, he listened and I'm going to have to go one more pasuk. Sorry about that. Vahi Shmuel Ma'al Ha'ola. Fine. So one more pasuk. So Shmuel brought up the Ola offering. Philistine Nikshu, the Philistine approached them to make war against Israel. V'yareim Hashem b'kol gadol b'yomahu, and Hashem caused or shouted, however you want to say that, a big noise. So how does he say it? He thundered. Okay, big noise on that day. Al Plishtim, on the Plishtim, v'yihumeim, and they were confounded or confused. V'yinagfu, and they smote. They were smitten, or they were smote themselves. Lifnei Yisrael, before Israel. Now v'yinagfu is, again, it's an interesting word because nagaf means struck, or negev, it could be a plague too. They say, how do they say? They were beaten. They were beaten before Israel. Who's beating them though? That's the question, right? Because you have Shmuel who davens to Hashem, and he brings this lamb while the sheepall is still nursing, as it were. No, it's a very young animal. And so now Hashem uses this thunder and gets everybody, gets the Philistine all afraid. And then Vaynagfu. And then they were beaten before Israel. So it's simply, by the way, if I was to read this simply, even in English, if I would just read it simply, I would say that the Jews are the one who are beating back the Philistine. Correct? That's a simple way to say it. They threw them into a panic and they were beaten before Israel. So who would beat them? The Israelis. Right? That would make sense. The Israelis are beating them. Am I right or wrong? Just from the English. You agree with me, Bill? Mm-hmm. That's how it sounds, right? So now let's see. The Malbim explains. Actually, everybody says is going the same way, but the Malbim says, "V'yarim kol Hashem shigi el Navi." The sound of the voice of Hashem that reached to the Navi, hayametchalek lekama shvilim. It split itself into many different paths, like it says in Torah. Kahanim v'yishma dekol medaber love. So that he heard the voice that Hashem spoke to him. Moshe Shema. So what does that mean? Moshe Shema v'chol Yisrael lo shamu. That Moshe heard that voice and all of Israel did not hear that voice. Yachol mipnei shakol namuch. Could it be that God's voice was he was a soft-spoken God, as it were? Tamaloma et hakol. No, it says the voice. And what is that voice? Hakol shektuv bo kol Hashem shavir arzim. That's the voice that broke cedar trees. And behold, that awe-inspiring voice, Shabo Anna et Shmuel. That's the one that answered Shmuel, lo shamuhu. But all of Israel didn't hear it. With that voice, he gave it the thunder and the noise over the Philistine. Vayinagfu, and Malbim says, Me'atzmam. They killed it themselves. The Israelis had nothing to do with it. Bnei Yisrael had nothing to do with this. Vayinagfu, they killed themselves. In other words, they were so afraid, they were bouncing each other and killing each other. Okay, so that's how everybody, by the way, if you look at Mitzvahs David, also says the same thing. He brought a great noise, and they were all confused. And because they were confused, they smote themselves before Bnei Israel came into the fight.
Maybe they trampled themselves in panic.
Whatever. They started to kill themselves. They were afraid. What happened? The biggest thing is when you become afraid, you just shoot at anything, right? So, you're defending yourself. So somebody hits you, boom, you stab them because you want to get out of the way. So here they were so confused that, and that's an important part, because without that you don't understand the rest of the story. But they did it themselves. So now what happens? V'yetzu anshe Yisrael min Mitzpah. So now Bnei Israel went out, or the men of Israel went out from Mitzpah. V'yirdefu Philistine, and they pursued the Philistine. Vayakum, and they smote them ad mitachat lekar. So they smote them, and it's interesting. He says, Vayakum. Vayakum really means hit. And so in the English they say harassed. Harassed them until they were below Beit Kar. So which is an interesting thing you'd have to ask. Why do they say actually harassed? So then it says, Meshuvah David says they went out, right? After that, after this incident, so they went from Mitzpah, they pursued them until under Beit Kar. So he couldn't behold derech hashir radfum. Meshuvah David says they hit him in every path that they were pursuing them. Ad bo'am Beit Kar, fine. So that's what happened. Then it says, the Malbim says, Vayetz Yisrael lo tzrichu lehilachem. Says Bnei Israel went out, but they didn't need to fight. Rak lirdof lahapil chalalim, only to pursue them, and they fell, and their corpses fell, caused the corpses to fall. So that may be why the English is saying harassed. If you have to, again, Vayakum comes from nakam. I'm hitting the guy. I'm hitting hikam. I'm hitting the guy. So it's not a matter of you have to convince me that they didn't do anything. But the question is, if Hashem caused them to hit, this is what the question really would be. If Hashem caused them to smite themselves, smite themselves, to kill themselves off, so why are we getting involved? I'm all into, like I said on Shabbos, I'm all into passive income. I'd rather sit down and let somebody else take care of it. So here I see that God is causing them to kill themselves. I'm also just sit down and let God take care of the rest. Leave me alone. I don't have to pursue you. I don't have to do anything. But they pursue them. And then Vehikum, what are you hitting them for? They're killing themselves. So that may be why they say harassed. And because otherwise, like I said, the word doesn't mean harassed. The word means hit. Okay, let's go on. So, Vayikach Shmuel Evan Achat. So Shmuel took one stone.
He gives another comment here.
Yeah.
About
they harassed them all along the road until they were below Beit Kar.
No, so
right, but again, the question is, why are you saying harassed?
They were just kind of like just as they were passing by, just kind of slapping them and just. No, but they were according to everybody, they were dying. So it says Rakler Dof Ulahapil Chalalim, that he says they were only pursuing and causing their bodies to fall. Maybe that. I mean. Oh no! As I said, if you're going by the Malbim. As they passed by, they were weak and they were just knocking them down.
I'm not sure. You cause them to fall, right? So that's.
In other words, it's stronger than just harassing.
Right. Right. Like I said, it'd be interesting to know why Judaica Press? Judaica Press, right? Yeah. Decided that it meant this. harassed. Like I said, this is why I always say when you're learning Hebrew, the most important thing to do is look at the pasuk. What does the pasuk really mean? What does the verse really mean? And then how do we interpret it? And where do they get that from? And what was their question? In other words, why leave pshat? Why leave the simple understanding of the text? The simple understanding is they hit them. That's the simple understanding. Yeah. So now, when you want to say something else, you better have a reason to say that. And the reason is because it says, "Vayinagfu lifnei Yisrael." They were plagued before Israel. What they were plagued means, normally, by the way, that God did it. That's the normal implication. God plagued them before the Israelites. And therefore God's fighting for us. But here, they're all telling us, what does it mean they plagued them? That they were plagued? That they killed themselves. Mm-hmm. That's what it means. So according to everybody. So if that's the case, so again, what are we getting involved with? Why are we pursuing them? Sit down and enjoy yourself. Okay. And you don't have to fight. But they didn't. So they pursued it, and that's why vayakum, like I said, the vayakum would be the key word there. And it either means they hit, or as the English is going, they harassed. And that, again, we'll go with the Malbim, where it says they didn't have to do anything to fight. Fine? Okay. Vayikach Shmuel, so Shmuel took Even Achat, one stone, Vayasem be'en Mitzpah be'en Hashem, and he put it between Mitzpah and Shane. Vayikrat Shmuel Even Ha'azer, and he called the place, or he called that stone Even Ha'azer. Remember, if you remember at the very beginning of the story, it said that they went to Even Ha'azer. Where was it? I can just find it. I can't find it right now, but if you remember, whenever you want to find something, you can't find it. What happened was originally they came to a place and they called it Even Ha'azer. And so Rashi said at that point it was named for what's going on in the future. And we're now hearing why the place is called Even Ha'azer, because of this incident. In other words, it wasn't called Even Ha'azer before this incident, even though they addressed it earlier. I wish I could find this. Oh, I take my word for it. I can't tell you. Must be before this. But the point is, sometimes that's what happens in Tanakh. We don't know this. It's called, remember, the writer is using the names that we all know. But we don't know why it was named that. In other words, we don't know why the river was called St. Joe River, for instance, okay? So when you hear the backstory of why this was called the St. Joseph River, so then you say, oh, now it makes sense. But until then, we just tell you, when you come to the St. Joe, take a right. Right? So that's what they were doing here. So now we're hearing the story is why it was called Even Ha'azer. Vayomar, and he said, Ad heina azaranu Hashem. And he said, until here, Hashem has helped us. Which is also an interesting thing. Why mean until here? Until here and only until here? Hashem doesn't help us always? What's going on there? So Rashi, the Meshuz David says, Bein Mitzpah Sham Amdu Marachot Pelishtim. That's where the armies or the array of the Pelishtim stood. And so Shmuel says, until here Hashem helped us, which means Ad Hamakom Hazeh, until this place is Aranu, Hashem helped us. B'ma, how did he help us? B'ma Shehumam B'Kol Ra'am, how we confuse them with a great sound. And yet the Jews had not even approached them. But because from there and onward, Israel pursued after them, and that's where they ruled over them with their hands. So, but until this place of Evan Ezra, they didn't have to lift a finger, as it were. That's when Hashem was doing all the work. So, and Malbim goes a little further. So he takes the stone. Why should he take the stone? L'zecher hanes, to remember the miracle, and it's a sign to everybody else that we're really relying. Remember the nace, by the way. A nace is also a banner. Everybody gets confused with this. A nace is not just a miracle. A miracle is, oh wow, we had blank happen. It's a miracle. Trump winning was a miracle. Okay. Fine, but what is the real? There's a couple of words for miracle. Nace, then you have a mofate, which is a wonder, but nace also is, like I said, a banner. What does a banner do? It shows you the way. It teaches you something. So unlike a miracle, a mofate does, well, a mofate can also teach, but it's not going to be as much as a direct line. When I see a miracle, I see a wonder, so on and so forth. Yes, I recognize it's a God, and so on and so forth.
So in other words, when you see a miracle, that's like a big banner coming up. Saying,
right, but the question is, what is the banner teaching me?
Yeah.
In other words, if I want to look at, like I said, a banner is, you can see the miracle, but you also can learn something directly from the miracle. So what do you learn directly? Namely, what was the banner? That we didn't need a sword to defeat the enemy. There had nothing to do with sword. It was all Hashem. Okay, that's why when it comes to the 10 plagues, it was all Hashem. It was nothing to do with us. Okay? That's why it's a nace. That's the important thing of nace. Okay. Yud Gimel 13. Vayikadu Pelishtim. So the Pelishtim were subdued. V'loyasfu od lavo b'gvul Yisrael, and they no longer came into the border of Israel. V'atihiyad Hashem b'Pelishtim, and the hand of Hashem was in or against the Pelishtim. Kol Yimei Shmuel, all the days of Shmuel. So Malbim says, "Vayikanu Sefer." He explains, "Siper Shmuel haya lemagen ba'ad Hashem, bi'ad am Hashem." That Shmuel was the shield on behalf of the nation of Hashem. Ben neged ha'oyev hachitzoni, whether it's the outside enemy, ben hanhagad ha'am atzmo, and also dealing with how the nation should be directed. Because both of these things, both protecting them from the outside enemy and properly conducting the people, that is what's put on the judge and the king, that our king will judge us, and he will go out in front of us, and he will fight our wars. Okay, and then it says, Pelishtim, and the Pelishtim were subdued. Two things happened. One, they were subdued by themselves. In other words, they were humbled by themselves, so much so, so much so they didn't have the guts or they never had the desire on their own to enter into the border of Israel. And number two, that in the time that Israel went out, from the land of the Philistine, the hand of Hashem was against them until it reached them before them in their land. That's what it means by all the days of Shmuel. And this is also something that you have to take into consideration. We will know later on the story that the Pelishtim do attack while Shmuel's alive. So how can it say all the days of Shmuel that they didn't come in? Rov Yimei Shmuel. So it really means the majority of the days of Shmuel. Because when Shmuel got old, Mashal Palishtim Israel. Like it says, they did take over in Israel, like it says further on. Now the question would be, by the way, why does the writer say Kol Yimesh? That would be number one. Why say Kol? All the days of Shmuel. Number two, why does, when Shmuel gets older, what happens that suddenly the Pelishtim are brought back in? That would be the other question. And but the main question is why does it say all when it really means the majority, right? And that you can answer very, very simply, because when the Torah, when they're writing this, I think Shmuel again. I forget who the Gemara says wrote Shmuel. I think Shmuel wrote it himself, but it's when you're writing Kol, in other words, all of Israel did something. It hardly ever means all of Israel. It usually means the majority of Israel. It usually means that. But because nobody spoke up against it, or seemingly nobody spoke up, so that's why, even though a few people did it, everybody's considered to have done it. Also, you have the concept of Kol Yisrael Rem Zeh B'Zeh. We're all connected with one another. So if I'm not doing something proper and you're not correcting me, because for whatever reasons you have, you think that you know, I can drill the hole in my side of the boat, but it won't affect you, sort of thing. You know what I'm saying, right? And so that is how people think, that as long as it doesn't affect my life, what do I care what he does? The answer is no, it does. It does affect your life.
Yeah, does Kol maybe correspond to Rove?
Well, that's what he's saying. He's saying what it means Kol. It doesn't necessarily mean Kol in the definition of all, like we would think. It means Rove, because we know later on in the story, everybody who knows later on, they read the story, they see that they attacked. Okay. So, Toshavna Ha'arim, so the cities that the, Toshavna Ha'arim Asher Lachu Plishtim Et Yisrael, so the cities that the Plishtim took from Israel were returned to Israel. Me'ekron v'ad Gat, from Ekron until Gat. Gath? What do they call Gat? Gath. Okay. Yeah, Gath. I don't know what Gath is. V'ekavulon, in all of their borders, Hitzil Yisrael mi'ah Plishtim. Hashem saved from the hands of the Plishtim. V'yishalom ben Yisrael ben Ha'amori, and there was peace between Israel and the Amorites. You obviously have to ask a question. What do the Amorites have to do with this? We just dealt with the Plishtim. Yeah. Pelishti and Amori are not the same group. So what are you bothering me for? Okay. Say they had peace. Say there was peace. Rule of the land. I have no problem. But what are you bringing Amori for? So Rashi says, "L'Yisrael he'arim." This is Mrs. David. He'arim ha'hem huchzor l'Yisrael. The cities that they belong to Israel will return to Israel. And at Gvulan Hatzilu Gvulan Aswan. They saved the borders themselves. The Blitate the Plishtim. The Vola Reshet Od Maz Megvulan, to stop to not give to the Pelishtim, to let them come back and inherit again. And then it was peace. Ki ba'od mashlu Pelishtim b'Yisrael nuchmu imahem ha'emori. Shisha'ara b'esh Pelishtim. He said, now while the Pelishtim were ruling, as soon as David says, while the Pelishtim were still ruling in Israel, the Amorites were still fighting, the ones that remained in Israel were fighting against the Israelis. Aval kashi echazka yad Yisrael. But when the Israelites showed the strength, hayu shalom b'neihem. Now there was peace. You understand? So, the Metzudas David has the same problem. Okay, you knocked the Pelishtim out, and you're telling me there was peace between you and, it should have been Pelishtim, and it says Amorite. Well, what's the Amorites have to do with this? What are you bothering me for? So he said, so you think that it was only one enemy at a time. There were two enemies. One was the Pelishtim were ruling. They did a bang-up job on ruling, so much so that they did not care that there were terrorists. The Amorite terrorists were coming in and bothering the people. That's not their problem. They just want to rule over the land. Let the inhabitants argue what they want, fight, kill each other, leave us alone. We just want the land. We want you to pay taxes. Okay. So now what happens is...
This is a case of getting the shorthand and not the entire detailed lecture.
Right. That's all. So now what happens is the Amorites were attacking. It could have been guerrilla warfare. It could have been any warfare. It could have been gang warfare. Who cares? And so... while the Philistine are there, and there's nobody stopping them, by the way, nobody stopping the Amorites, so they have free hand. Okay, like I said, it could be gang warfare. Mm-hmm. Then what happens is now Hashem shows his hand, and the big dog is sent out of the pen. Okay, you're out. Now we beat you back. Amorites are saying, whoa.
In other words,
now
they found out about it. They heard about it.
They were there. They said, no, you know what? This is not the time to rumble. No, let's have peace, because now we don't have the upper hand. In other words, if I'm running the government, I can attack both of you. I can put you both in jail, right? Even though you were supposed to be there, I can still take you out. So now that it's back to you being the government, I better make peace with you because you're the victors. So, and that's why we suddenly hear about the Amorites. That's how the Metzudas David explains it. When it comes to the Malbim, it says, Toshavna, they returned to the city, since the Philistine were humbled, so all the cities that they were returned, that they took were returned from to Israel. Me'atzmam, by themselves, ki hit yar'u lavo be'gevul Yisrael, again, because they were afraid to enter into the borders of Israel. Ve'ayidei shahid yad Hashem ba'am, and since Hashem's hand was against them, that nation, arch Yisrael b'milchama be'artzam, so now Israel set themselves in array to have war in their land. Ve'ayidei zeh ve'ayidei kain, and through this, they went from Ekron to Gat. Hagam sheharim ha'ele kavar hayu biyad plishtim biyamim rabim. And these places were also under the power of the Philistine for many years. Hitchil Hashem Yisrael miyadam. So Hashem, Israel rescued it from their hands. Ki harisham misham. They drove them away from there too. V'gam, and as a result, v'gam v'yishalom ben Yisrael ben Mari. Again, there was peace because of that. Ki be'ei marslu ha'ivem Yisrael nos v'gam emarim aleim nilchmu gam bam lo kain b'meishvol. Because he adds a little more, he says that when the enemies were in Israel, so they just added on to that. The enemy of the enemy is my friend, right? So I may not like the Philistine, but they're doing the job for me. Let's join up with them. Well, I'll make an ally. Once the Philistine lost, so then they're no longer allies. Now become the allies with the other winners. And so they no longer attacked again in the days of Shmuel, after Shmuel is done, so that we can argue that later. Vayishbot Shmuel at Yisrael. So Shmuel judged Israel kol yemei chayav, all the days of his life. Now we also know that this is not so true, right? Because it's going to be again the majority of his days, because his sons will take over. I'm sorry.
It's like the other pasuk.
Right, but it's not going to be kol yemei because. It's also didn't do it. The Malbim picks on a different way. I went one way. He's going the other way. He said, "Neged mitzvah ben Yisrael." As far as the judgment is concerned between Israel and Yishpop, kol yimei chayav. What does that mean? All the days of his life, or say more, may eight shenit manam b'shofet. From the time that he was appointed as judge. In other words, he didn't do it his whole life. It was only from that time to the end. So in other words, you have people. Here we have a guest rabbi in our city here. So just as when he leaves a place, yet people still call him because they still consider him their Rav, regardless of who the rabbi is in the city, they're going to call him. So that's the same thing with Shmuel. Even though Shmuel is not going to, he's going to be staying home more, with the home fires as it were, but people are going to still consider him the man, even with his sons there. And they're going to complain to him, by the way, that your sons are not doing the job right. But anyway, so he said, "V'halach midei shana b'shana." But what happened is he would go from the year to year. He would go forth from year to year all around. And what would he do? From Beit El, V'sava Beit El, V'Gilgal, V'Mitzpah, V'Shafat Yisrael, and he would go from Beit El to Gilgal, Mitzpah. He's a circuit judge, and he would judge all of Israel, in all of these places. That was also unique, by the way. I said it many times. It was also unique that Shmuel was the only one who did not stay home. He would go around, and he said, he went to them, and he didn't trouble them to come to him, and they were not troubled to come to him. And then after you do that circuit, so then what happens? Udshuvato haramata. Then he would return to Ramah, Kisham Beito. That's where his house was. Sham Shafat Israel, and there he judged Israel. Even Sham Mizbeach Lashem, and he built there an altar to Hashem. So he says, and he would return. V'hushav haramah Kisham Haya Beito. That's where his house was. Albin explains. Gam Sham Lonach. Also, when he came home, he didn't rest. Rak Shafat B'Kviut. But rather, what he did was he would judge everybody in a fixed manner. And also there, he had a mizbeach that was prepared for the service of Hashem. So in other words, you have this circuit judge who's going from place to place to place to place to place. He didn't want to metriach you. He didn't want to trouble you to come to him. By the way, why not? Why not? What happens if you have a case in, let's use modern day geography. We're living in South Bend, okay? You have a person who's in Plymouth. Plymouth is what, 30 minutes from here? 30 minutes. You have somebody who else is in Granger. You have somebody else who is 10 minutes from here, 15 minutes from here. You have somebody else in Goshen. Was that about 2 hours from here?
About 30 minutes.
Another 30 minutes, okay. I need somebody, Fort Wayne, 2 hours away, okay? And they want to come to a court case. Well, I can tell you, as a person who has a recall on my car, I have a choice to either go to Fort Wayne, to Chicago, or to Merrillville, Indiana.
Oh.
Merrillville is the closest, and that's at 1 hour and 15 minutes according to MapQuest.
Yeah.
That means I have to spend 3 hours, not 2 hours, 2.5 hours on the road, assuming I get to New York without any problems. So let's say 3 hours. Plus I have to leave my car there. Or I have to stay there and I have to find something to do in Maryville. Okay, or travel a little further, go to Chicago and go to something to eat.
Yeah.
But whatever the case is going to be, I have to do that. What are the odds that I'm going to make that my top priority? Or am I just going to say, you know what, when I get there, I'll have time.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So here's a court case. I want to sue you. And I say, okay, you come to me and say, well, you think you're right, I think I'm right, we have to go to the court. Fine. So we say, okay, if the court was down the street, will we go? Absolutely. We will go. It's like the dentist. You go to the dentist, you deal with it. But when you have to travel 2 hours, and that's, again, one way, or I have to travel for weeks, remember they're on a horse, or whatever, out there was traveling, I'm not going to do it so much. So one of two things is going to happen. One is, I'm going to just say it's not worth it. Keep what you want. Who cares? So now you're over the prohibition of stealing from me. You think you're right. I'm not saying you're a crook. You think you're right, and I think I'm right. So the judge, in other words, nobody's a crook here. So we have the wrong understanding of the case, but the judge will tell us who really gets the stuff, right? But we're both saying it's not worth our time. But when we say it's not worth our time, one of us is incorrect. Clearly, one of us is incorrect. So somebody's stealing something. You don't want to get involved in that. So he would go around and say, here I'm coming, blah, 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 on this particular day. You don't have to come to me. By the way, that's why in Bangor, Maine, there were 2 getting on the same day. Nobody ever comes through Bangor to give getting. I mean, this is not a normal thing to give a divorce. But because we had one person giving a get, so somebody else, I remember they told me they wanted to have a get. I called him up and said, hey, you know what? It's 2 for 1 day. So, and he came down and we got it done. Because what are the odds that the guy from Memphis is going to come down? Memphis? I think Memphis is going to.
I
Greenblatt.
saw him in San Antonio one time.
You're right. What's the odds that a guy's going to get down from Memphis, Tennessee, to come to Bangor, Maine? That's not exactly around the corner.
Wow.
Okay, and have everything set up. You're not going to do it. It's not normal. So what you do is you combine everybody together. So if I know that somebody's coming, oh, okay, great. And I know you're coming on a regular schedule, so now I can set that up too. I don't have to worry about it. So we'll have that in. We'll put the property here. When the judge comes, we'll do it. But if I have to go to him, the odds are I'm not going to go.
So in like in America, in the frontier days, they had the traveling.
Correct.
It's a concept that comes from Shmuel.
Right, Shmuel. It's coming from Shmuel. Now you would think that when Shmuel goes home, he would say, I can relax now. The answer is no. You can't really. He didn't relax. What he did was he continued to drudge. In other words, whoever would want to be in that place, he would go from that judgment to it. We'll have to stop here. We're at the good place for chapter 8.
All right.